Buddy, why did you come by foot? What happened to the Audi A6 we gave you for your 21st birthday? My grandpa's voice carried that mix of confusion and gentle concern that always made me feel like a child again. Before I could answer, my dad smiled, that smug, performative smile he saved for family gatherings, and said, "That car belongs to his sister now." The room chuckled softly as if he'd cracked a harmless joke. But I could feel the sting crawl up my throat, the kind that burns before it breaks you. Hi everyone, my name is Evelyn Rhodes, I'm 21 and apparently I no longer own the car that my grandfather gifted me. To the guests, it was just another family anecdote, a light tease over brunch. But to me it was another public reminder that in this house I was a placeholder daughter. A space filler between my father's pride and my sister's perfection. The sunlight from the porch cut across the table, catching the gold watch my dad adjusted every few minutes. His subtle way of reminding us what success looked like. My sister, Layla, laughed as if she'd earned that car herself, brushing her manicured nails against her coffee mug. Dad thought it'd make more sense, she said, twirling her hair. You know, since I actually live responsibly. Her words lingered like perfume, sweet but suffocating. I glanced at Grandpa. He wasn't laughing anymore. His hand rested still on his cane, eyes narrowed just slightly, the way they did when he smelled dishonesty. He didn't say another word, and that silence, that heavy, thoughtful silence, somehow made the air colder. Later, while everyone moved to the patio for photos, I stayed behind, pretending to check my phone. But I was really watching Grandpa's reflection in the glass door. He looked at me once, long enough for me to know he'd noticed everything. That night, as I walked home alone under the soft hum of streetlights, I couldn't shake the thought, the pause he'd taken before looking away. My family had humiliated me in front of him. But something in his silence told me this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something none of them saw coming. And that thought kept me warm all night. The next morning I woke up to the sound of birds and the quiet creak of my old bedroom door. Grandpa was standing there, leaning on his cane, dressed neatly as always, a newspaper tucked under his arm. "Evelyn," he said softly, "come walk with me." We didn't talk for the first few minutes. The gravel crunched beneath our feet as we walked down the long path that led to his workshop, the place he used to build furniture when I was little. The scent of varnish and old wood clung to the air. When we stepped inside, he shut the door gently behind us and turned. "Your father's forgotten what family means," he said quietly. "But I haven't." I swallowed, unsure if I should say anything. "I gave you that car because you earned it, not because of some favor or appearance." His voice hardened. "And the fact they took it from you without asking? That's not just wrong. It's dishonest." He reached for a small box on the shelf and handed it to me. Inside was a silver key, but not to the Audi. "This key," he said, "belongs to something more important than a car. Keep it safe until I tell you otherwise." I looked at him, confused, but his gaze stayed steady, calm, resolute, and unreadable. "I've been watching," he added, "and soon they'll show their true faces. When that happens, don't speak. Just let truth do what anger can't." That night I held the key in my palm, its metal cool against my skin. I didn't know what it opened, but for the first time in years I felt seen. And something deep inside me whispered, my revenge had already begun. The following weekend my dad invited everyone to brunch again, this time at the country club. The same people, the same polished laughter, the same empty performance. Except this time I felt different. Grandpa didn't mention the key again, but I carried it everywhere. On a chain beneath my sweater, hidden close to my heart. Every time it touched my skin, it reminded me that I wasn't powerless. At the table, Layla was busy showing everyone her new gift. My Audi, gleaming in photos on her phone. "Dad said it suits my personality," she giggled. "You know, classy, reliable, hardworking." Everyone laughed. Except Grandpa. He kept staring at his plate, cutting his eggs with slow, deliberate motions. Then he looked up at me. Just once. No smile. No words. But it was enough. "Evelyn," my dad said suddenly, leaning back, "you're quiet today. Still upset about the car?" I looked at him, that same practiced charm, the man who built his life on appearances. "No," I said calmly. "I just realized that sometimes silence says more than apologies." He frowned slightly, unsure what I meant. Layla smirked, sipping her mimosa. After brunch, Grandpa called me to his car. He opened the glove box and slipped me an envelope. Inside was a folded document and another key. Part 2, he whispered. Keep both safe. Don't read it yet. Wait until they give you a reason. His eyes softened as he added, and trust me, they will. That night I placed both keys in the envelope inside my drawer. I didn't understand what game he was playing, but something in his tone made my heart race. Because when my grandfather planned something he never missed. 2 weeks later the reason arrived. In the form of a wedding invitation. Layla's engagement was officially announced. A printed card, gold-trimmed, with my parents' names proudly displayed at the top. Mr. and Mrs. Richard Rhodes request the honor of your presence at the wedding of their beloved daughter, Layla Rhodes. Not a single mention of me. My stomach twisted as I read it. They'd used my college fund to pay for the ceremony. I overheard my mother boasting about it over the phone. It's not like Evelyn will ever need it, she'd said. She's not exactly marriage material. That night I sat at my desk staring at the 2 keys in the unopened envelope. My hands trembled. I could almost hear Grandpa's voice. Wait until they give you a reason. So I opened it. Inside were legal documents, property deeds. My name was printed clearly at the top. Sole beneficiary of the Rhodes family estate, signed and dated 2 months before. My jaw tightened. Grandpa had transferred everything, the farmland, the workshop and the main house, to me. And attached to the bottom, a note written in his neat cursive. They may have taken your car, Evelyn. But when they took your dignity I made sure they lost their legacy. I sat in silence for a long time, the weight of it settling in. Then I folded the letter back and placed it inside a safe. They wanted to humiliate me publicly, again. So I decided to let them. I'd go to the wedding, smile and let their arrogance light its own fire. Because nothing burns louder than truth revealed at its peak of pride. And I was ready to strike the match. The wedding day arrived under a cloudless sky, too perfect to be real. The estate was draped in white roses and gold ribbons, like something straight out of a magazine. Guests floated through the garden with champagne glasses, praising Layla's fairy tale wedding. I stood near the entrance, calm in a navy dress my mother once called too plain for family photos. It felt fitting. Layla spotted me instantly. You made it, she said, feigning surprise. Did you walk here again, or did Grandpa finally buy you a bicycle? A few people laughed. I smiled faintly. No, I said. This time I came with a key. She blinked, confused, but before she could respond my dad appeared, all smiles for the cameras. Evelyn, don't cause any scenes today, okay? This is your sister's moment. Don't worry, I replied. I wouldn't dream of stealing what doesn't belong to me. Inside, Grandpa sat quietly in the front row. He looked tired, but his eyes never left me. I took a seat beside him, my heart pounding against the envelope hidden in my clutch. During the ceremony, every vow, every promise of forever, felt like an echo of hypocrisy. The same people who taught me love was conditional now applauded a performance. Then, just as the officiant said, "If anyone objects," Grandpa leaned close and whispered, "Now." My pulse stopped. I rose slowly, the crowd gasping as I stepped forward. My voice didn't tremble. "I object," I said. "Because this entire estate, including the land beneath your feet, doesn't belong to my father. Or to this wedding." Layla froze. Cameras clicked. And for the first time my parents' smiles faltered. Grandpa's hand rested on his cane. His silence spoke the loudest. The garden fell into a stunned silence. All you could hear was the wind rustling the roses and the faint hum of the microphone I still held. My father laughed, too loudly. "Evelyn," he said, his voice dripping with disbelief, "this isn't the time for your little outbursts." But Grandpa's voice cut through the air, firm and steady. "Let her speak." Everyone turned toward him. The oldest man in the room suddenly commanded every heartbeat there. He motioned to his lawyer, who had been seated quietly in the back row. The man stood holding a brown leather briefcase. "I believe," Grandpa continued, "today is the right time." The lawyer opened the briefcase and pulled out several documents, copies of the same deed I had seen days before. He handed one to my father, one to Layla, and placed one in front of the officiant. "As of 2 months ago," Grandpa said, "this estate, including the farmland, the workshop, and all associated assets, belongs entirely to Evelyn Rhodes." My father's face drained of color. Layla's bouquet slipped from her hand. "You can't be serious," my mother whispered, stepping forward. Grandpa looked at her, calm but cold. I'm done rewarding cruelty dressed as family. The guests began murmuring, phones raised, some recording, some pretending not to. Layla's fiancé shifted uncomfortably. Is this legal? He asked. Oh, very, the lawyer said flatly. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just turned to Layla, the sister who once took my car, my place and my peace, and said quietly, I hope you like walking. The officiant awkwardly cleared his throat. Shall we proceed? No one answered. The fairy tale had cracked. And the silence that followed was worth every tear I'd ever hidden. My father's voice broke first. Dad, you can't just do this. This property has been in our name for decades. Grandpa looked up, calm but commanding. Correction, it was in mine. And I've chosen who deserves it next. Layla stepped forward, mascara streaking down her cheek. You're ruining my wedding over her? She's jealous, bitter, pathetic. I didn't flinch. You took what was mine and laughed about it, I said quietly. Now you'll learn what it feels like when laughter echoes in an empty house. The lawyer handed my father another envelope, this one smaller. He opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter written in Grandpa's signature cursive. Richard, you were once the man I admired most. But arrogance turned you blind. You traded integrity for image. You raised one daughter with love and the other with comparison. That ends today. My father sank into a chair, speechless. Guests began leaving quietly, whispering. Layla's fiancé's parents approached her, murmured something about financial uncertainty, and walked out. Her dream ceremony was collapsing in real time. I turned to Grandpa, eyes wet. Why me? I whispered. He smiled faintly. Because you never fought for greed, only for respect. That's what builds legacies, not cars or weddings. Then he handed me his cane. And because I'm tired, Evelyn. It's your turn to stand. For the first time in my life I felt taller than my father. As the guests dispersed, the photographer packed up silently. Layla's perfect day became a quiet lesson in karma. I didn't gloat, didn't smile. I just took Grandpa's hand and led him away, leaving behind the ruins they built themselves. But one final twist still waited for morning. The next morning, the front page of every local paper carried the same headline. Rhodes family estate transferred to granddaughter during wedding ceremony. I woke up to dozens of messages. Reporters, old friends, even people I barely knew. But the only message that mattered was a single text from Grandpa. They'll come knocking. Let them. By noon, my parents arrived at the estate. My dad's voice echoed from the gate. Evelyn, we need to talk. I met them on the porch, calm as the morning breeze. Layla stood beside him, her makeup smudged, her perfect world gone. Dad, I said softly, the lawyer has already filed everything. The property's legally mine. But you can stay, for a while. As guests. My mother scoffed. Guests? This is our home. I smiled faintly. It was. Until pity became policy and cruelty became normal. Grandpa joined us, standing just behind me. Your daughter is being generous, he said. If I were her, I'd have sold this place and vanished. Layla's tears came then, not for me but for the cameras that wouldn't return. I turned to leave but paused. You once said I wasn't responsible enough for a car, I said, looking at my father. Turns out I was responsible enough for everything else. That afternoon, Grandpa and I sat on the porch, the same one where he'd first questioned me about the car. The sun was lower now, the silence peaceful. He handed me his watch. It's time you stop walking by foot, he said. Drive wherever your dignity leads. And as the light faded across the estate, our estate, I realized revenge hadn't destroyed me. It had restored me.